Okay, continuing with the time management, third topic, third process is the sequence activities. Once we have identified the activities and we have created a long list of all the activities, naturally, once we are creating the activities, identifying the activities, we do not think in sequence. Nor do we think in sequence while we were developing the WBS. Normally, there is a tendency that people start thinking in a sequence while they are developing the work breakdown structure or identifying the activities. That could not be useful. Actually, it should be a free running thoughts. Anything which could be added should be added in the work packages or activities, and you should not be thinking in sequence. This is the time to think in sequence. Now you have a list of all the activities. Consider each activity against the other and use your expert judgment and experience and see what has to be done earlier than others. Every two activities will have, not every two activities, there can be a relationship between two activities. And the relationship can only be of dependence. The two activities, the relationship cannot be equal. One must be dependent upon the other activity. The activity on which some activity is depending is called the predecessor activity, and the dependent activity is the successor activity. And naturally, the activity on which you are depending, that is mandatory. That will put in a mandatory condition which you must fulfill. That is the condition. And the second, the successor activity will, if it fulfills the requirement of the predecessor activity, is then at liberty after fulfilling that condition to do as it likes. I hope you understand my point. The predecessor activity is putting in a condition that until and unless I finish, you have no right to start your work. And once
Right.
the successor activity has finished, only then the successor activity can start its work. Can start its work. That is not a condition that it must start its work. But the basic condition has been fulfilled that the predecessor has finished. And after that, anytime the successor can start. I hope you get my point.
Yes, that's clear.
So this is the relationship. Normally people think that the only relationship possible between two activities is the predecessor must finish as if the successor can start. Although I do understand that this is the most commonly used relationship, but this is not the only relationship. There are other relationships also which I will be discussing with you. So just remember this basic thing, that predecessor activity is on which some other activity or activities are depending, and the dependent activities are called successor activities. So let's move on with the sequence activities process. What is it? It is the process identifying and documenting the relationship amongst the project activities. And the key benefit is the logical sequence of work is established. And why? It is to obtain the greatest efficiency. This is the best way, best orchestrated project would have things happening, right things happening at the right time. Not that you are doing the right thing, but at wrong time, and maybe you're causing delays due to that. So we want things to happen most efficiently. The process itself uh, takes project management plan as input, in which we are naturally concerned about the schedule management plan and the scope management plan. The documents which are required here are the activity attributes, list, assumptions, milestones, etc., and enterprise environmental factors and process assets. The interesting part here is the tools and techniques. The tool, basically the tool which we are using is the precedence diagramming method, which is called PDM. There used to be another method which is now obsolete, and that was called arrow diagramming method, ADM. We are not going to teach that because that is no more valid. But generally speaking, arrow diagramming method was a method on which activities were shown as arrows. Here in precedence diagramming method, we will be showing activities as boxes or nodes. Second tool is dependency determination. You have to determine how the predecessor and successor are connected. Which activity depends upon the other, which is the predecessor, which is the successor, what is the relationship, and what is kind of the dependency. Then we have the concept of leads and lags. Leads and lags are the kind of overlaps or gaps between the activities. Sometimes it is conditional that you have to wait for some time after finishing one activity to start another activity. Maybe you say that predecessor, after the finish of predecessor, 3 days after the finish of predecessor, only then can the successor start. So this is an example of a lag, a gap. Lag means you have necessarily to give a wait period after this activity, predecessor activity has finished. You have to wait for 3 days and then only can you start the successor activity. Then is the lead. Lead is you are trying to create a small little overlap between the two, predecessor and the successor. You are allowing the successor to start slightly before the predecessor has finished. So you are saying you can start 1 day before I am finished. So successor can start 1 day before the end of the predecessor. Then we have got project management information system, which we have also talked about in integration. This is keeping a record of all what is happening, and this is an information distribution system, an automated system. This could be very much useful for developing and for communicating the sequence activities to all concerned. As a result, you will come up with a project schedule network diagram. Actually, when you connect all the activities, they form a kind of a network diagram. So project documents would include the activities, activity attributes, maybe updated activity list, assumption log, all the milestone, etc. All will be upgraded. So every activity except the first and last should be connected to at least one predecessor and at least one successor. Meaning what? There cannot be such activities in the middle of the project which are not connected backward or forward. There must be a connection. Right from the beginning of the project till the end, everything must be connected with something. Only the very first activity does not have a predecessor, and only the very last activity does not have a successor. But still, we must draw a start point and a finish point in addition to these activities. So the first activity will be connected to the start point of the project, and the last activity will be connected to the finish point of the project. Logical relationships should be designed to create a realistic project schedule. It may be necessary to use leads and lags at times between the activities to support a realistic and achievable project schedule. Sequencing can be performed by using project management software or by using manual or automated techniques. So you can do it in any way, but I will very strongly recommend that before you can start using it, on automated tools, you must understand how to sequence activities manually. Because only when you know how to do it and you can do it manually, then you will be able to correctly apply this online. The sequence activities process concentrates on converting the project activities from a list to a diagram to act as a first step to publish the schedule baseline. You see, as soon as you have this network, the path has been paved for developing the schedule. Although I am not saying that this network diagram is enough, this network diagram lacks some items still. This sequence activities will only develop a network diagram without any durations, but it will be a completely linked network diagram. Later on, we will take this network diagram and the duration estimates from activity duration estimation, and we'll put it all together, and then this network diagram will be populated with duration, and you will be able to calculate actual duration of the project and the critical path and all those things which we keep hearing about. So we are clear about the inputs. There is nothing to explain here. Tools and techniques, yes, of course, we want to talk about it. Precedence diagramming method is a technique used to constructing a schedule model in which activities are represented by nodes. Actually, I have told you there used to be an arrow diagramming method in which activities were represented by arrows, but it had certain problems and therefore it was discontinued. In precedence diagramming method, arrows are just there to show the direction of flow. Actually, the activities are encapsulated into the nodes or boxes. So the points where the arrows meet, these are the boxes, and these points represent activities, and all the information about that activity is enclosed in that box. What does the arrow serve for? Arrow is basically, as I said, it is showing the direction of flow, and it is also showing the relationship between two activities. If between two activities there is an arrow, it originates from A activity and it terminates in B activity, then the origination point of the arrow is connected to a predecessor, and the termination point, the arrowhead, is connected to a successor. And it does matter from which point it is connected. The box is kind of a square or a rectangular box, and that box has a starting edge as well as a finishing edge. If the arrow originates from the starting edge of a predecessor and connects the starting edge of a successor, that means the predecessor must have started as if the successor can start. So you see, the relationship is not only finish to start, that the predecessor must finish as if the successor can start. There could be any number of possibilities as far as the relationship between the two activities are concerned. So we will talk about each one of those. Just for example, look at this diagram. What do you see? You see several boxes, and the names of these boxes these are the activities A, B, C, D, E, F, G. They all start from a single point of origin, and that is the begin. Begin is not an activity. Begin is just a starting point. Similarly, everything must end at a point. So although the last activities are E, G, and J, but they culminate into end. So you can also see that none of the activities is disconnected. There is a flow of arrows right from beginning till end, which is continuous in nature, no matter which path you take. It is not possible that an activity is left hanging in between, either from the predecessor side or the successor side, activity cannot hang. If activity has nowhere to go, it will go to end. And if there are more than one activities which can start the project like A, H and K, then all of them should be connected to a beginning point. Now, within this, we can see some other figures. For example, the connection between B activity and C activity. There is an arrow connecting the start of B activity, the starting edge of B activity with the starting edge of C activity. And for clarification, uh, it is also written SS. That means start to start. First start is meant for the predecessor, and the second start is meant for the successor. So condition, the predecessor is the condition. B must start as if C can start. So it is mandatory for B to have started as if the C can be started. This is a start to start relationship. Where there is nothing written, like from A to B or B to E, there is nothing written. These are by default the finish to start relationships. A must finish. As you can see also, the arrow is coming out of the ending point of A, finish point of A, and entering into the starting point of B, starting edge of B. That means the relationship is finished to start. A must have finished as if the B can start. Same is true for B to E, for H to F, K to I, K to L. So all of these are finished to start relationships. But because in a network diagram, most of the relationships are finished to start, therefore by default, if we don't want to write the word FS on the line, that is okay. So we are just avoiding the cluttering. We only wanted to clarify the relationship, and that we know that by default all relationships will be finished to start until and unless we prove otherwise. Like in B and C, the relationship was start to start. Not only did we show it through the arrow, but we also wrote it down there. We can also show leads and lags alongside these relationships. Like between F and G, the relationship is finished to start, yes, but with a lag of 15 days. After the finish of F activity, we must wait for another 15 days to start G activity. So G activity cannot be started earlier than that. This is called FS plus 15. Plus means lag, minus means lead. So there is a lag. So F and S, because there is a lag, it is fair to show the full phrase, write the finish to start, which otherwise we did not write because it was default. But because here there is a lead R lag, it would be a good practice if I write FS plus 15. H to I, again, we have a similar kind of relationship, which is S to S plus 10, SS plus 10. What does that mean? It is a lag because it is 10, and it is the relationship is start to start. H, after the start of H, after 10 days after the start of H, can I be started? Are you with me?
Yes, I am with you. Just one doubt that I have is, let's take the example of this box C. For C to start, it is having two inputs. One is finish to start from H, and one is start to start from B. Just so individually they are clear to me. The only question is it an and relationship that, for example, for C to start, H has to finish and B has to start? Or it is an or condition that if any of those conditions are met, I can start C?
No. It is an and condition because you see, C cannot start. C has two conditions. C has two arrows, so it has two conditions. The B must have started,
Okay.
that is condition number 1, and H must have finished, that is condition number 2. Until and unless
Yes.
both these conditions are satisfied, C cannot start.
Okay. Okay.
Similarly, we have a relationship between L and J, which is finish to finish. So that means that is again, L is the predecessor. So L must have finished as if the J can finish. So there is no restriction on J when should it start. As far as L is concerned, L is not putting any restriction on J on the start of J. So L must have finished as if the J can finish. But when can J start? This could be determined by another condition or it could not be there. Like here, the second relationship is I to J. So I must have finished as if J can start and L must have finished as if J can finish. So J is bounded from both sides, from start side and as
Mhm.
well as from the finish side.
Right.
Okay with this?
One question. I mean, that the theory is clear, but in terms of practical implementation,
Mhm.
I mean, this finish to finish, is it somehow? I mean, you start J, but you are waiting for L to finish, for J to finish. I mean, practically, is it something? I mean, is there a practical example of this?
Yes, yes. We'll talk about the example. Yes,
Okay.
it's very much possible. This is there, but these are difficult to perceive. Finish to start is the easiest and most logical relationship. That's why we absorb it. We do not uh, acknowledge that there are other possibilities also available. Therefore, start to start, finish to finish, start to finish, they will look very odd to us. But I'll explain with
Yes.
examples a little later. But if you have
Right.
already understood the concept, if I ask you to draw a network diagram, can you draw it?
For the conceptual part, it's clear for me
Mhm,
that I mean, what does each of these mean, or how the finish to start, start to finish. So
mhm.
this part is, I mean, this part is clear for me.
Right. So I will write some data on screen, and based on that data, I would expect that you should be able to create a network diagram. Let me write on the screen. Okay, you have this is your activity A, and there is no predecessor. I'm writing predecessor here. B
Right.
has no predecessor. C has A as predecessor. D has B has predecessor. E has C and B both as predecessor. F has D as predecessor. Let's make it simple. Just this much. Um, this relationship is star to start, and this relationship is finish to start plus 2. Rest everything is finish to start. So can you draw it?
Uh, how will I draw it, by the way? I mean, I will draw it on my pad and then share with you, or
Yeah, you draw it on your paper, and then
okay.
we'll see how you draw.
Okay.
So just follow this data and try to draw it.
Okay.
So have you drawn it?
Yes, it is complete, but I actually don't know how to show it to you actually.
Okay. Can you see a drawing tool on the menu?
Yes, I can see.
You click on that, click on the marker
Okay, this pen actually. Okay.
to take the highlighter and select some other color. I'll just clear this. Yes, now the screen is clear. You can draw.
Okay. Do I need to make boxes, or I mean, simple letter is enough?
Just make a circle or something around it.
Okay.
Is it a touch screen you are using?
Yeah, no, actually, but I don't have a mouse at the moment, so I'm just drawing it with my cursor.
Okay. You don't need to write FS here.
Okay. That's it.
Okay.
The positioning of E was a bit confusing for me, so I just put it ahead and just to show that F is going to D, and it is somehow, there is a bridge crossing this other arrow.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if this is the convention we use or there is another way of showing the same thing.
no, you see, it says D is the predecessor of F, but you have made F the predecessor of D.
Okay, okay, okay. So then I took it incorrectly. So F then will come on the, F will be a third layer. I mean, somewhere close to E, and then D will be giving the input to F.
Yep.
Okay, so I took it wrongly then.
Yeah. Okay, let me.
Okay.
First of all, you must have made a starting point, and from starting
Uh-huh.
you must have connected all those activities which start.
Okay.
Second thing is, uh, let me see if I can remove. Okay, probably I can't delete that thing, but okay,
Maybe you can correct it with another color or something.
yeah. Actually, highlighter doesn't have other color. With highlighter, I can't use another color. But anyways, whatever. So this should be connected.
Okay.
Number one. Number two, start to start cannot be shown like this. You are starting this from the finish of it. It should be something coming out of here and going here.
Okay. Okay. Right.
So this is wrong. Then uh, okay, this is wrong. This is wrong. So it should be something like F, and
Right.
all should be terminating at one point. And even if you like, you can even terminate this here.
Right. Right.
So this will something be somehow the case.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I would try it again. I would say this, this, A, B, C, D, E. So this one is start to start. This one is FS plus 2. And that's it.
Okay. Understood.
So what the point which I wanted to make was that without knowing the durations, you can still develop a network diagram. Normally, people do not understand this point, and they try to kind of mm, uh, put dates and durations into it. Yes, I understand
Right.
we will ultimately be doing that, but as far as the sequence activity process is concerned, that has absolutely nothing to do with the durations. This is the sequence,
Right.
a connected network diagram from start until end, showing all the activities properly connected, no dangling activity, no gaps in between. This is exactly what is a network diagram, and once you have made it, your job is done. As far as the sequencing
Right.
is concerned, your job is done. You do not need to do anything more. Okay, coming back now, let's talk about the relationships. There are four types of different relationships possible. Finish to start is the most common relationship which is used everywhere. Rather, I would say whatever project you do, maximum number of relationships would be finish to start. Only some relationship will be start to start or finish to finish, and start to finish relationship is probably almost never seen because that is too difficult to perceive. But even start to start and finish relationships are difficult to understand as compared to finish to start. And that is exactly why your mind was a bit twisted and you wanted to say, how is it possible? And you needed to hear of some examples there.
Yes.
Um, as far as start to start is concerned, don't you think that there are certain activities which can be started as soon as another activity is started? Can you think of a example for that?
Uh, well, any activity which is, for example, can be done in parallel, where I see that, mm, for example, during construction of a house, if I feel that there's an activity to start, for example, I need to build the foundation. So, for example, on one side, I have to get the delivery of cement, for example.
Mhm.
So, at the same time, I can also get the delivery of, for example, the sand triggered so that we can mix. So if the time of transportation is similar, assuming that the source of both the materials is at the same distance of my construction site, so I can say that okay, once the trigger of cement is starting, at the same time I can do it for sand as well, and once they are both at the site, I can start the mixing or something like this. So it would
Okay.
be a simple example, I think.
First of all, I must make it clear, although you can see a lot of parallelism going on here, but that does not mean that these two activities are definitely starting together. They're not definitely parallel. Although there is an element of parallelism in this relationship, but parallel
Okay.
could be okay. Let me see. Uh, for example, this could be one activity, and from this activity, there are two activities coming out. This is A, this is B, this is C. Now tell me, are B and C not parallel?
They are parallel.
But they are both dependent on A, and they both are having finish to start relationship with A. They are not
Yes.
interdependent on each other. B and C do not have any relationship. Both of them have a
Right.
relationship with A. That's why they are parallel.
Right.
You got my point?
Yes.
So I am not talking about the parallelism as such. I am talking about
Hmm.
the condition which the predecessor imposes. Here in this case, the picture in front of you, A is the predecessor and it is forcing B and C not to start until it finishes. Now, if A has finished, B and C are free of the obligation. They have they have not started before A had finished. Now B says that I don't want to start now. I have ample time. I'll start next month. Can you sue him? He has fulfilled the condition. He did not start before A finished. And now it says, I will start next month. So is he doing something illegal?
No.
Because he has fulfilled the condition. Similarly, C
Yes.
decides to, start working immediately. So B and C may not be parallel, but they can be parallel. But that is
Right.
beside the point. Let me draw another thing. Okay, so this is A and it has a start to start relationship with B, right? So
Right.
that means A is putting a condition that until and unless I start, you cannot start. So A must have started as if the B can start. Now again, I would say they can start together. Of course, I agree with you. There could be a complete parallelism, but the condition is fulfilled when B did not start and A started.
Right.
And after that, if B happens to be, starting after 2 months, A must have finished by that time. So there will be no parallelism.
Right.
B has respected the condition. He did not start before A start of A. But earliest B could start is as soon as A has started, B can start. And
Right.
latest, B can start anytime. Naturally, then B will be governed by some other condition, the pressure from the other side that you should not get delayed more than this. So if B is governed by that restriction and that restriction is pushing it backwards, it can go backwards as far as the start of A, not before that.
Right. Right.
A is blocking the way. Well, you cannot go before Y start. So if somebody is pushing B to go back, it cannot go back beyond the start of A. You got this point?
Right. Yes, it's clear.
And if there is no restriction, B can go anywhere later.
Right.
Or start to start relationship. Now tell me an example.
Uh, Frankly, it's a bit. I mean, finding a practical example of such a case. Um,
Yes, it is difficult.
well, it is from my network. I can say that you cannot once a site is on aired. Only after that you can go for its acceptance or its other quality assurance cases. But again, that is something like a start to finish, a finish to start, not exactly a start to
Okay.
start. So yeah.
Okay. As soon as the site is on air, it can start communicating.
Yes.
But you see, it is on air. Maybe it is on trial, but it has not been finalized. But still, communication can start. Maybe on trial
Yes.
basis or whatever, communication can start.
Yeah.
But the condition is site should be on air.
Yes.
You got it? So, somehow you can construe it into a start to start. Then we have got
Hmm.
finish to finish. And very simply put, in that case, it would be an arrow coming out of A's finish and entering into B's finish. This is finish to finish relationship. That means A must have finished as if B can finish. Meaning what? We are not putting any restriction on the start of B. B can start anytime. You got it? B can
Yes.
start anytime. But B is restricted not to finish its job until and unless A has finished. That
Hmm.
they earliest they can finish together, and latest B could be dragged to any limit.
Hmm.
So if I want to bring B to the earliest date, that would be the finish of A when the B can finish,
Right.
but not earlier than that. B cannot finish earlier than that. Okay, so this is finish to finish, and the most difficult relationship is start to finish.
Start. Hmm.
And let me show it to you. Okay, can you see it? The, let this diagram come.
Uh,
Yeah, this one.
yeah. Now I can.
A activity, the first one is the finish to start. A must finish as if B can start, right? So when
Right.
when is the earliest date B can start? Earliest date.
As soon as A is finished.
Exactly. As soon as A finishes, B can start. And what is the latest date? Well, I can't determine it until and unless I know what is the pressure on B, what is pushing B backwards. So if that I know of that pressure, then I would say that not earlier than A. It can be
Yes.
pushed back to to the finish of A, not beyond that. Underneath this is the start to start relationship. A
Hmm.
must have started as if the B can start. So earliest they can start together. And if that is not the problem, there is no pressure on B, then B can be moved forward as much as it can go.
Right.
When I'm talking about finish to finish. They can finish together earliest, but if there is no restriction, B can be moving forward. The finish of B may not coincide with A, and B can be finished even later. The most difficult and impossible relationship is start to finish. Although this is not really impossible, but this is so confusing and it is difficult to conceive. Even if you conceive it, then you will again get confused. That is, A activity should have started as if the B activity can finish. Now this goes, against the rule of gravity.
Right.
A must have started, meaning what? B is not restricted by A. When can the B start? The start of B is not restricted. It could
Hmm.
have started 10 years earlier. We don't care. But it cannot finish before the start of A. You got my joke?
Right.
B cannot
Right.
finish before the start of A. Now, B can be pulled back all the way before the A, which is very confusing. Who is predecessor and who is successor? Successor is earlier and predecessor is later. The basic English definition, it goes against that. Predecessor, we think it is earlier, and successor, we think it is later, but this definition no more works in project management. The definition which works here is on which you are depending is the predecessor and who is depending is the successor. So you must be very clear about this. Okay.
Hmm.
You can come up with any examples, but one thing I must tell you, and that is this is not the matter of just learning by giving different examples for each case. The interesting part is any one situation, any one relationship can be converted into another relationship in case you have problem, you are troubled. For example, A and B were connected by default by a finish to start relationship. For example, I say until and unless I have foundation laid, I cannot I cannot construct the wall.
Hmm.
You got it? So foundation is a
Yes.
prerequisite because the wall is going to stand on it. Therefore, this is definitely a finish to start relationship. So if foundation is taking 3 days and wall construction is taking 5 days, earliest I can finish these two jobs is 3 plus 5, 8 days. And
Yes.
actually, if there is a gap between these, construction of wall has no limits, then I may drag it to as many days as I want. But if there is a
Hmm.
pressure to complete the work earlier, the B will be pulled backwards and it will, just touch the end of A. That means 3 plus 5. Earliest it can be done in 3 plus 5, 8 days. and later it could be
Yes.
anything more than 8. What if you have a pressure to complete these two activities before 8 days? What will you do?
Well, the only solution would be to have a CR or something to, for example, increase the resource and do the foundation in lesser days. Because otherwise, if you try to, you cannot build wall without a foundation. So that would be a disaster.
Right. Okay, let me explain two things to you. Number one, this what we are learning here is a kind of a schedule compression technique, and there are two
Right.
schedule compression techniques. One is called crashing, which you just gave example of, that you mm, overload the resources and overtime and all that. uh, by hook or by crook you are trying to accomplish the goal. This is crashing. The other and better
Right.
way is fast tracking. If there is no parallelism between two activities, you somehow try to create a parallelism. So if somehow 3 days and 5 days can overlap to some extent, then the duration can be reduced. Do you agree with me?
I mean, practically it would depend upon the activity itself,
But
whether it is, I mean, up to how much extent it is possible.
forget about the practicality. Just tell me
Okay.
theoretically, if somehow I can do some overlap, the things can
Yes,
be done earlier. That
they
means
can. Yes.
by increasing parallelism, I can fast track the project and I can reduce the time. Now, theoretically, we
Yes.
understand that. Why are you saying that this is impossible? Take the example of foundation and wall. Why are you saying that it is impossible to start constructing the wall before the foundation is complete? Why are you saying
Because you need a foundation to build a wall on it. So it's like a
that? Right.
typical finish to start activity.
So, if I say that you have a typical mindset and you don't want to think out of the box, then what do you say? Can you change this mindset?
Yes, it is possible. For that, I mean, yeah. Again, I would need to be an expert in that field to understand if something can be worked out.
Okay, let us not be an expert. Let us be dreamers. Let us be dreamers. Okay, just think of something out of the box. Out of the box doesn't require expertise. Out of the box is a dreamer, is a poet, is an artist. He can think anything.
Mhm.
So think anything
Okay.
and come up.
Okay. In that case,
Yeah.
yeah. In that case, for example, I might go for a solution which is a ready-made solution where there is a um, like there are some, for example, ready roofs which don't need all this, the classic way of constructing a roof. Similarly, there might be a solution to build a wall which is shorter to construct a ready kind of a solution.
Wonderful, wonderful. You see, you are the same person. Just a moment ago, you were saying it is impossible. Now you
Yeah.
have come up with a solution. You understand how it works? A
Right.
human mind thinks with logic and in sequence. Human mind thinks in sequence and with logic, and it believes that whatever has knowledge I have and whatever logic I am using, that is the last logic, and nothing else can be done. But when I ask you to think more, you will definitely come up with a solution. You will definitely come up with a solution. So be creative,
Right.
think out of the box. You will be able to change the same relationship into another relationship.
Right.
But I do understand that while doing that, you may have to pay for it. That solution may not be so cheap. So if I am going for a ready-made wall, then probably that may cost more or whatever.
Right.
I have to do the cost benefit analysis and see whether it is feasible or not, and try to find a
Right.
feasible, cheaper, and faster solution. For example, as you said, that we have got, okay, if you're not constructing the wall, what can the other thing could be? Maybe, as you said, that there are ready-made walls. So ready-made walls can start getting constructed while the foundation is being constructed. As soon as the foundation starts getting constructed, ready-made wall work on ready-made wall can start. And although in start to start we don't have any restriction when the wall is to finish, it is only the matter of starting. It is only the matter of starting. So probably we can start together and say A takes 3 days and B takes 5 days. If we can somehow start them together, it will both of these activities will take how much time?
Hmm. I mean, you mean total if we are doing it in parallel
If
somehow?
I'm doing start to start and both these activities start together, A activity takes 3 days, B activity takes 5 days. How much time the both activities will take?
5 days.
5 days. You see, you have reduced 3 days out of the sequence. 3 days in a project is a big thing, and just by changing the relationship between two activities, you gained 3 days.
Yes.
Now, can you imagine how much can you do in the whole of your project? Although
Right.
you are so rigid about it, you say this project will take 60 days and nothing on this world can do anything about it. But if you can be a bit more creative, you can do it maybe in 20 days. Is it surprising?
Yeah, it is actually.
But you can. You see,
Yes.
this is completely a new thing, that you can, by changing the relationship you can make so much difference. Um, when I was engineering student, um, I learned something which surprised me just like this. But that was not this thing. This I learned later. That was the critical path. Critical path, if we can efficiently use the sequencing of the activities, even if it is a finish to start relationship, if you can efficiently use the sequencing of the activities, you can reduce the time. Why? By appropriately doing things when they should be done, rather than spreading the work around uh, illogically. So, I, being a civil engineer, I was in army, and naturally, before even starting my degree in engineering, we are already graduates, and we are employed on the field, and we are actually doing the construction work before we start engineering degree. So I
Yes.
had some experience of working on field, and naturally I was very proud how I knew how to construct, and I knew how to do things, and what the sequences are, and how the things should be done. And when somebody told me during the um, engineering degree that there is a thing which is called critical path and it can reduce the time, I said, It is damn well not possible. I am an engineer, I know, I have done it, and there is nothing more efficient than what I know and what I can do. Therefore, how can someone tell me that he can do this job earlier? He said, Okay, let's study critical path and then we will talk about it. And once I
Right.
did that, I found out I really can reduce time. And that was a small reduction in time. What I am telling you is huge reduction in time.
Right.
And I have, this is a magic. This is really a magic. You can magically
Hmm.
reduce the time in your project, and I can even do that. There is yet another method which I will be talking about. That is yet another magic. That is a bigger magic than this. That is
Right.
called critical chain method. So for the time being,
Okay.
you understand that just by changing the relationship from finish to start to start to start, or to finish, we can bring in some changes. And although start to finish relationship looks impossible, but somehow if it can be applied, I am not saying that all the relationship you will definitely be able to convert them into start to start or to finish to finish. Some relationships your mind would be completely blocked and you won't be able to change those relationships. So don't play with them. Play with those which you can somehow convert. So all the relationship in a project cannot be changed. As I said earlier, whatever you do, most of the relationships in a network diagram will remain finished to start. You can play around with some of the relationships, and better do it when not in the first attempt. When you are designing the project for the first time, do not try to do everything in parallel. Do not try start to start or finish relationships very often. But when you are in
Right.
during the project, this is the point when you can start thinking about changing some relationships and thus reducing time.
Sir, one question here. I was just thinking, I mean, maybe it's the wrong example or something, but let's take a very basic example. Like, for example, there is one guy who is who is installing tiles at my house while I'm constructing it, the floor tiles, let's say. And there is another guy who is whose expertise is to, let's say, polish those tiles, or
Mm,
let's say the woodwork.
mm,
So, for example, my one of the activities, let's say, is to polish to install those tiles on the floor,
mm,
and as soon as he installs them with a lag of, let's say, 1 day,
mm.
I have a start to start relationship that from that corner I can engage the other guy to start polishing those tiles
Right,
or woodwork or marble, let's say.
right.
So in this case, it's a start to start with a lag of, for example, 2 days, so that it can it can be in the right shape to be polished.
Mm,
And then the same at the end of the floor, it would be like a finish to finish as well, because
mm.
once the end is finished,
Of course.
even after 1 day, it is going on in somehow in sequence. So will it be start to start and finish to finish
Uh,
both, or am I missing some point?
no, actually, one of the relationship will be more important to you out of these two, and you will pick that up. You can't have start to start as well as finish to finish, right?
Okay.
One of the relationships is more important. Let me okay. Let me show you. Okay, this is a normal activity A, and this is a normal relationship with activity B. This is 3 days. This is
Okay.
5 days. This is finished to start. So what is happening is I started working here on day 3. 3 plus 3, 6. 6 plus 5, 10. Got it? So if I start working on 3rd of January, I'll finish on 10th of January, right?
Yep.
What if I can change this relationship to start to start? It will be something like 3, 5, 3, 8.
Yeah.
I have reduced to
Actually,
this is
the
start to
first one would be 11, I believe.
what?
The first one will be the finish to start will be 11, I think, instead
11.
of 10.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is okay. Start to start, finish,
Yeah.
finish. Uh, let me. I have to draw it. Okay. So this is A activity starting on 3 days, and if the relationship can finish to finish, then still it finishes on 6. You understand this one? This is my
Yep.
finish to finish relationship. You see, I, though that it takes the same 5 days, but I have pulled it back to day 6. So 6th of January
Yeah.
I'm done. But in start to start, I was being done on 8th of January. And in
Yes.
finish to start, I was being done in 11th January. And let us
Right.
do the impossible. This is a start to finish relationship. This is my A, starting on 3, finishing on 6. And finish is connected here. You understand? This is the connection.
Yes.
This is start to finish. So B must finish on 3. That means the start goes even backwards. So it is
Yes.
maybe 27 or 28 of December, something like that. So you see,
Yes.
what is the difference between um, finish to finish and start to finish? Finish to finish, I take 5 days and I finish on 6th. Although in start to finish also, I'm finished on 6th, but the parallelism between the activity has been reduced. The B has gone even backwards. That means I can safely do the A activity without any interference. No, I do not have a
Yes.
fear of resources being shared by B or something like that. So it is less risky, and although it is impossible, start to finish is almost impossible, but this whole can be done. So take
Yes.
the same relationship of foundation and roof as foundation and walls and try to convert it in any other relationship. And trust me, it may be difficult, but if you keep thinking, you will be able to have a solution for each of these relationships. Although I do agree the start to finish may look very difficult, it says the work on foundation must have started as if the walls can be completed. Meaning, after you have started the work on foundation, you will not do anything on walls. Walls are done, and the walls are installed. How is it possible that walls are installed before the foundation? It is amazing. How could that be? But let me,
Yes.
give you an example. Maybe I said as soon as the foundation work on foundation starts, the walls can finish. So let us suppose a hypothetical science fiction story. Maybe the wall is kind of. I just need a single point to install the wall. I mean, if I can have just like umbrella has a single
Hmm.
point of contact. So maybe my wall is centered on a center of gravity, and this is the resting place I need for the wall. I just need a hole to ground that in a spot, and after that the wall has been installed. The kind of foundation work can go on. Foundation work started as soon as I made that hole, and then I
Right.
installed the pre-made wall like umbrella on it, and then I kept constructing the foundation, which took another 3 days.
Right.
Although this looked very hypothetical, but something like that can be done. And to give you a more discernible example is, let us say there is a person on a guard duty at night, and his duty is going to finish at 6 a.m. when the new guard is going to come. But the new guard is the predecessor and the old guard is the successor. It is dependent on the coming of the new guard that the previous guard can leave,
Right.
right? So what is happening is, until and unless the predecessor has arrived, the successor cannot leave,
Hmm.
right? So until
Right.
and unless the new guard has arrived, the old guard cannot leave. This is a practical, workable example of start to finish.
Right. Right.
So these are all the relationships. Let me have a little break on it, and then I'll get back and explain other things in
Sure. Sure. That's fine.
it. जी जनाब, आवाज आ रही है? हेलो।
हेलो, हाँ जी, आई एम हियर।
ओके राइट, ये रिलेशनशिप्स हमने कर ली थी। सो
हाँ जी।
ओके, अभी जो बात हम करने लगे हैं, व्हाट वी आर गोइंग टू टॉक अबाउट नाउ इज how we can use this network diagram subsequently. As far as the sequencing is concerned, the job is done. But we can use this network diagram for further calculations. Therefore, we must understand what can be done with it. So, I am telling you beforehand, whatever I am going to be teaching you now is not part of sequencing. This is basically part of the develop schedule process. But we use the same network diagram which we just created, and we fill in the estimates, the duration estimates in it, and based on that, we find the critical path and all that. So that is this portion which I'm going to be addressing now, assuming that we know the durations. So if we know the durations, we will put them in and then find the dates, earliest start, earliest finish, latest start, latest finish, and so on, and we'll calculate everything. So a box which we said a node in which the activity is shown could be represented by these number of headings. These number of information can be put into that box. This is one way of doing it. There are many people who are showing it in a slightly different way, but generally the same data is represented in a box. So this is the most comprehensive way I found out, and therefore I am using this diagram. You put the activity number or label on top left corner. In the middle, you can write the brief description like construct wall. The task is construct wall. So write it here, activity description, construct wall. Duration, say 5 days. So these three information must be required. Rather, I would say the activity number and duration are basically required to move ahead. If the activity description is optional. Now we have to calculate remaining all the data. Let us see how do we calculate. I'll put up an example in front of you. This is the example, and in this example you can see there are certain number of activities. Again, very few, 8 activities are there, and the duration is given in weeks. So forget about whatever is filled inside. Just look at every activity has a number, A, B, C, D, whatever, and duration. Now we start by filling in the earliest dates. Earliest dates means the upper column, the earliest start and earliest finish. Assume there is no data written inside. So I will start from the earliest start and earliest finish for every activity. So we should start from the point where the project starts. Naturally, assume that start is day 0. So A will earliest start on day 0, naturally. B will earliest start on day 0. F will earliest start on day 0. And when the earliest finish of A will be 0 plus 6th week, it will be finished. B 0 plus 4 4th week, it will be finished. F is 10 weeks long, so 0 plus 10 10th week, it will be finished. Now this is called forward pass. I am calculating things from start to finish. I am moving forward. For finding the earliest dates, I have to do the forward pass. So once I have the earliest finish of A, I can transfer it to as the earliest start of C, because the next activity is C and the relationship finish to start. So 6 and 3 weeks C will take 6 plus 3, 9. On D, if we want to calculate, I have got 4 coming from B. So 4 plus 4, 8. Let's talk about H. Now H cannot start until and unless C and D both have finished. C is finishing on the 9th week and D is finishing on the 8th week. But because it is an AND condition, so I have to wait for the later date. So 9th week is when earliest I can start H. So no matter D has finished on 8th week, I still have to wait for another week for C to finish, as if both conditions are fulfilled and H can be started. So H could be earliest started on 9th week. It will take 2 weeks, so H will finish on 11th week. But that does not essentially mean that the project will finish on 11th week, because I have yet not calculated all the dates. Let us move on to E. From B, E is connected. So the earliest finish of B, 4 weeks, is going to come as earliest start of E. 4 plus 3 is 7. When we go to G, we have to fulfill the condition of E and F both. E is ready by 7th week, but F is ready by 10th week. So again, I will be taking the higher value because even if the E has finished, I still have to wait for 3 more weeks to start G. So bigger value is 10. Therefore, G will start at 10 and it will take 3 weeks. It will end earliest. This can end on 13th. So how long the project will take? When I say project duration, that means all the activities must be completed. So if I look at H, it completes on 11, but G completes on 13. Therefore, until and unless I reach 13th week, I cannot declare the project finished, because what if no matter H is done 2 weeks earlier, but project will only be done after two weeks. That is, the project will take 13 weeks in total. So the total duration of the project is 13 weeks. You see, we can only find the total duration of the project after the forward pass. It is impossible to find the total duration of a project without doing this. And so far I have done only half the calculation. I have only found the earliest start and earliest finish. I have not yet calculated the latest finish and latest start of each activity, which I am going to do next. But I said, as soon as I have done the forward pass, I have completed the forward pass, I have calculated all the early start and early finish dates of all the activities, I would know when the project will finish, how much this project is going to take. Now, when I know this project is going to take 13 weeks, so from 13 weeks, I will start traveling backwards. I will calculate everything backwards and find the dates of latest start and latest finish. So it is called backward pass. So the first thing from finish which comes is latest finish of H and latest finish of G. Because I know this project is 13 weeks long, therefore I'll put 13 in H and 13 in the latest finish of G. And I will start subtracting. So for the case of H, 13 minus 2 is 11. The latest start date is 11. For G, because this was already 13, so it will remain 10. 13 is the latest finish and 10 is the latest start. From H, I am going back to C and D. So whatever was the latest start becomes the latest finish of C and D. So 11 will be written as latest finish of C as well as of D. In C, we will subtract 3, it will become 8. In D, it will subtract 4 and it will become 7. As far as 10 latest start of the G is concerned, that will be transferred to E as latest finish and F as latest finish. 10 minus 3 is 7, 10 minus 10 for F is 0, The only one data item which remains to be filled is B. We have got two links coming to B. One is from D and one is from E. Now what to take? Both ways, the latest start of D is 7, latest start of E is again 7. So naturally I'll take 7, but if they were different, I would have gone for the lower figure this time, because once I'm going back, my case is reversed and I will take the lower figure. But anyways, here is no conflict, so I'll take 7. 7 minus 4 is 3. So B can be latest started on 3. Now just imagine this much has been done. Before calculating anything else, I can say that activity B can earliest start on 0, and if it starts on 0, it will end on 4th week. But latest it can start on 3rd week, and if I start it on latest date, it can finish on 7. That means between 0 and 3, this activity can start anywhere. The actual date of the project could be 0 to 4, 1 to 5, 2 to 6, or 3 to 7. So this is the allowable limit in which this activity can be done. Similarly, just look at H. The earliest date is 9 to 11 and the latest is 11 to 13. That means it is possible to do it in 9 to 11, 10 to 12, or 11 to 13. So this is the permissible limit in which we can roam around. If we can somehow get the difference of the latest dates and the earliest dates, that is latest finish and earliest finish, 8 minus 6 in the case of A will be 2. And interestingly, the same difference would be the latest start and earliest start. 2 minus 0 is also 2. Look at H. 13 minus 11, latest finish and earliest finish. 13 minus 11 is 2, and 11 minus 9 is also 2. So this is a kind of a cross check. If both ways you get the same value, you put it and write it down in float. This is cross check. So by this we will have the float. One more thing which you may or may not calculate, but if you calculate, that is good, because it is span. Span is the total duration of time during which this activity can be done. You remember I said it can take, talking about H, it can take 9 to 11 or 10 to 12 or 11 to 13. So minimum it can start on 9 and maximum it can finish on 13. So the difference between the latest finish and earliest start, 9 to 13, is my span. So 9 to 13 is 4 weeks. In 4 week span, this activity of 2 weeks can be done anytime. Another way to find this span is if you can add the duration to the float. 2 plus 2, it will also be the cross check, and it is 4. Similarly, look at activity D. If I subtract the latest finish from earliest start, meaning 11 minus 4. 11 minus 4 is 7. And what about adding the duration with the float? Duration is 4 and float is 3. 4 plus 3 is again 7. So span is 7. So D activity in the span of 7 weeks, D activity which is 4 weeks long, in a span of 7 weeks can happen anytime. Do you get my point? Are you there?
Yes, I get the point. Sorry, I was mute. I was speaking while on mute. But I get the concept. Only the point you made about, I mean, when we are going forward, we are adding the weeks in terms of the earliest start and finish and latest start and finish. But when you said when you go backward, that part was a bit unclear for me.
When you're going backward, when we went forward, we found the total duration of project, 13 weeks. Now this 13 weeks is my milestone. I will complete the project in 13 weeks. So if I want to complete the project in 13 weeks, and everything is delayed to its extreme, then the last activities must finish on 13th day, 13th week. And therefore, I will calculate H and G, which are the last activities, from 13 minus 2 and 13 minus 3 from the duration, subtracting the duration from the total duration, total project duration. So 13 minus 2 is 11, 13 minus 3 is 10. Then going backwards from H to C, the 11 will become the latest finish date for the C, and 11 minus 3 is 8, which is latest start date of C. And so on, I'll keep moving backward and I'll calculate all the dates. And when there is a clash like between D and E, here the both values of early start are 7s, so we have no problem. We can take 7. But if one was 7 and one was 8, I would have gone for the lowest value, that is 7.
Okay.
So if we understand that, can we experiment it on the same problem which we developed?
Okay.
So draw that thing again, this time with these kind of boxes, and I'm going to give you the durations for each. A is 10 days, B is 3 days, C is 7 days, D is 5 days, E is 6 days, and F is 2 days. So we have to create a diagram like that and solve everything.
So you're saying on this very diagram, or we go back to the previous one?
The diagram we created.
Okay.
So we make that diagram in with this data according to this format. This is the format.
Okay. And what about the start days and the earliest date and latest date?
You will calculate that. This is the format.
Isn't that the input?
You just need to know the activity name and the duration. From that, you will calculate the whole chart.
Okay.
जी जनाब, क्या रिजल्ट रहा?
सर एक्चुअली जो बल्कि मैंने अभी आपकी डायग्राम देखी है, तो बाकी चीजें तो उससे मोर और लेस कोरिलेट कर रही हैं, लेकिन जो कॉन्सेप्ट है, मतलब ये जो टाइम, जो दूसरा लैग ऐड हो रहा है, फॉर एग्जांपल जो बॉटम उस बी के अंदर लेट से 0 to 3 और फिर 5 to 8, वो चीज जो है वो मुझे क्लियर नहीं हो रही कि
ओके
वो हमने 5 to 8 किया इसको।
ओके, लेट्स सी। फॉरवर्ड तो ठीक है, फॉरवर्ड में तो कोई मसला नहीं है।
हाँ जी,
फॉरवर्ड पास ओके। 8 से 10 कैसे बन गया, पता चल गया?
8 से 10, हाँ जी, वो FS+2 है, तो वो 2 दिन में ऐड हो जाएंगे, वो दैट इज क्लियर।
राइट।
सिर्फ ये जो लोअर पार्ट में हमने 0 to 3 और ये जो 5 to 8 के जो हमने गैप ऐड किया है, इसकी
राइट,
मुझे क्लैरिटी नहीं मिली।
ये बात तो हमें क्लियर है कि प्रोजेक्ट 17 दिन में हो रहा है, ये श्योर है?
हाँ जी, ऊपर से 17 जो आ रहा है वो क्लियर है, नीचे से जो 17 आ रहा है
नीचे से
उसमें डेफिनेटली ये जो
नीचे से नहीं आ रहा, नीचे से
जी
16 आ रहा है, ई से 16 आ रहा है और एफ से 12 आ रहा है। फॉरवर्ड पास की
ठीक
बात
है,
कर रहा हूँ, फॉरवर्ड पास रेड वाले
ठीक
जो है।
ठीक
तो रेड वाले
ठीक है,
तीनों फिगर 17, 16 और 12, द बिगेस्ट फिगर इज 17, therefore my project finishes on 17, got it?
ठीक है, ठीक है, फॉरवर्ड पास है, बिल्कुल ठीक है।
Therefore जहां जहां से भी एरो आ रहे हैं, all the three arrows will carry backward 17, 17 in F, latest finish of F, 17 in latest finish of E, as 17 in latest finish of C, got it?
ठीक है, ठीक हो गया जी।
Okay, now I start subtracting. For F, 17 minus 2 is 15.
हाँ
Okay.
हाँ, ठीक है।
E, 17 minus 6 is 11.
E17 - 6 is 11, ठीक है जी।
For C, 17 minus 7 is 10.
ठीक है, ठीक है,
But you have to cross check one more thing. For C, there is another link, ये start to start वाला. This link is there
ठीक
from
है,
E. वो क्या बनता है? वो कहते हैं the 11 figure from here should go back to where? To the start of C. So I
बिल्कुल
have a
ठीक है।
competition here. Either I put 10 here or 11 here.
But you will take the lower one.
I get an 11. But from the end of the project, I get 17 minus 7, 10. So whichever is lower, whichever is
Right.
10 or 11.
10 would be the case here.
That's why I ignore the start to start wala, and 10 I take 10. So I take the 10 backward to A, 10 minus 0, 0. Now come back
Okay.
to F. F, the latest start was 15. I had to subtract 2 because I am going backward. I added 2 forward. Now I am going back. I subtract 2. 15 minus 2 is latest finish of D is 13. You okay with that?
Right. Right.
Now 13 minus 5 is 8.
Right.
And 8 minus 3 is 5.
Okay. Right. Right.
After that, you can always calculate the floats. And the important thing here is there will only be one path which will have 0, 0, 0 float. So the path is this one, A, C till end. At least there will be one path. And it will have 0 throughout. And this will be the longest path out of the many. Like, this AC path took 17 days, whereas BDE path was taking 16 days. BDF path was taking 12 days. So this will be the longest
12
path.
days. Okay.
AC is the longest path.
Right.
So the longest path will have 0 float because their earliest and latest dates are same. If I find the difference, that will be 0. So these
Right.
are there is no allowance in these two activities. As far as other activities are concerned, you see, E has got allowance of 1 day. D and G, B, D and F, they all have allowance of 5 days each. And if I find the span of A is A and C is
10 days.
duration, 10 days and 7 days. E is duration plus float, 6 days duration and 1 day's float. 7 days is for E. For F,
Right.
2 plus 5 is 7. For D, 5 plus 5 is 10. For B, 3 plus 5 is 8.
Right.
So I have got all the data.
Okay. Right. Right.
I have also discovered the critical path. Okay. Is it possible to have more than one critical path in a project?
I believe it would be in case theoretically the other path has the same duration.
Exactly, correct. The other path has to have the same duration to be critical.
Right.
You can't say that the second nearest path is 16, so that is also critical, or that is near critical, or something like that. There is only one duration which is critical, and that is the highest duration. And if that highest duration is shared by 2 or 3 paths, they all will be critical, and all the activities on those paths will be critical. But in our case, we have only one critical path, and on that path there are only 2 activities, A and C. So A and C have no allowance. They cannot be delayed even for a single day. But E activity can be delayed for 1 day. The job of E till E can be done in 16 days, so it has an allowance of 1 day. It can enjoy for 1 day.
Right.
As far as BD and F are concerned, all have 5 days float. That does not mean that each one of them has 5 days float. Actually, this 5-day float is the total float of the path. BDF path has got total of 5 days float. This is called total float. If B consumes 1 day out of it, for D and F there will only be 4 days float left.
Right.
B consumes 3 days out of 4. F will have only 1 day float left. So you see, 5 is shared by B, D and F. So they can jointly consume these 5 days. E is alone. E alone can consume 1 day. And if you look at the path, B, no, there's no path. E is not no path. BE is a path. BE is a path.
Yes.
BE is a path. And in BE, you see, B activity has 5 days float. E activity has 1 day float. Right? These are the total floats. These are the total floats. Got it? Now,
Yes.
B activity how much B activity can enjoy? Let me discuss that. B is finishing on 3 and E is starting on 10. Right?
Yes.
So how much is the gap?
7.
7. Right. That means from B to E, there is a gap of 7 days. That means the float in between B and E, if there is no other dependency, is 7 days. This is the free float of B. Right? Free float is that one activity can enjoy this much alone before starting the next activity. But
But this would only be applicable for this particular path, because otherwise
yes. Exactly.
Right.
So if you can understand this, you can solve any network for that matter. This is usually done in schedule development, where we know the durations and we put those durations on it. So you see, we have found the critical path, and we found that the duration in the critical path, the 17 days, is the maximum duration in which the project can be done. Project cannot, not the maximum, is the minimum duration the project can be done. Project cannot be completed before 17 days. So this is the minimum duration, but out of the paths available, this is the longest path. Within the project, out of the many paths available, 17, 16 and 12, this is the longest path. But this 17 days represent the minimum time project requires to complete.
Right. So this diagram is itself called precedence diagram, or it is not? I mean, it is a part of this this term.
Actually, the previously when we did not have any durations, this was the network diagram or the precedence diagram,
Okay.
whatever you want to call it. Now we have put in the durations and done the analysis of the network diagram. This is the analysis result.
Okay.
So I am deleting all this.
Right.
Right. So you see, we have used this this thing appropriately. We did our own solution. People have different conventions. They can use any convention, but how do you understand what does these relationships mean? What is the relationship between build prototype and test prototype? Gina.
Prototype would be some kind of a like a proof of concept or something like you develop a certain model and then you which you're not sure. I mean, it's not the end product, but something like a like in manufacturing they make these concept cars or those kind of things, and then it has to go through a certain testing process, after which either it goes through some revision or it is the final product that is required.
What I'm asking was, what is the relationship between build prototype and test prototype? You have studied the relationships. What type of relationship?
It will be, finish to start.
Wonderful. What is the relationship between test prototype and document amendment?
Document amendments. It will be finish start to finish to start. No, sorry. Start to start.
Is it all? That's it. What is this?
I mean, test. Document amendments with test prototype will be start to start, but then it is finish to start with revised specification.
No. I'm just talking about test prototype and document amendment. You said it is start to start. I am asking.
Plus one.
Plus one. One means a lag of 1 day.
Yes.
So you would say SS plus one.
Yes.
And what is the relationship between document amendment and revised specification?
It will be finish to start plus 2.
Wonderful. So job is done. You have finally understood all the relationships and leads and lags. So this is all done. Dependency determination is a very crucial work. There are certain dependencies which are mandatory and others are discretionary. Mandatory dependencies are which are technically bounding. You can't move ahead until and unless you fulfill that mandation. Discretionary dependencies are that you could have done the other job in parallel, but you have been, mandated not to do that. This is a discretion of your boss. He asks you, like we do, that until and unless all the work of phase 1 is complete, you are not allowed to start anything on phase 2. So this is a discretion. Otherwise, there is a possibility that many of the activities of phase 2 can be started. But it has been made a principle that until and unless we complete phase 1 and all the job of phase 1 is complete and is approved, until and unless that is done, you will not start phase 2. This is discretion. So relationships can be mandatory or discretionary. They could be internal or external. Internal, which are from within our organization, and external, which are imposed on us from outside world. And therefore, mandatory dependencies could also be external and internal, and discretionary dependencies can also be external and internal. These are just few definitions. Leads and lags you understand very well. This is another example of those leads and lags. SS plus done, H to I, L to J finish to finish, F to G finish to start plus 15, B to C start to start. So you see, you can represent all these relationships, and you can also view from this diagram how beautifully you can create these network diagrams. Then comes the activity, estimate activity duration. In estimate activity duration, we will define the work period, how much time each activity will take. So if we have these work periods defined, the amount of time for each activity will be known, and we will be able to, we just created the critical path and all that. We can do that only when the duration is known. And to estimate the duration, we will have the project management plan and naturally the schedule, management plan and scope baseline as input, and in project documents, all what has been created so far. That means the activity attribute, activity list, assumption log, lessons learned, milestone list, team assignments, resource breakdown structure, resource calendar, resource requirements, risk register, all of these things will be required. And in addition, we can have enterprise non-preparators and organizational process assets. Okay, now let's see what are the tools. You can use your expert judgment, of course, but some estimation tools are also available. For example, and the interesting part is almost the same estimation techniques are going to be used in cost and in resource. So first is the analogous estimating. What is analogous estimating? You are trying to create an analogy between a previous event, a historical event, and this event. You say, I have done a similar activity on a previous project, and when I did that, it took two days. Therefore, it is safe to assume that our project activity, which is similar activity, can also be done in 2 days. So you have drawn an analogy from a previous experience, and based on that, you have estimated your duration. It is not necessary that if the previous experience, it took 2 days, analogy doesn't necessarily mean that it will take 2 days this time also. You can amend the analogy with respect to. So you can have a proportionately high or low figure. Maybe you say previously this job was done in 2 days, but now that the better technology is available, I can do it in 1 day. So you proportionately reduced it. Or you can say that previously this job was done in 2 days, but seeing the current situation and inexpertise of our people, I assume that this will take 5 days. So this is also an analogy. Analogy could be same, less, or more. Then is the parametric estimating. You say one man can do this much job. How many people are required to do all of this job? So if you have a parameter available, parameter for reference, you will multiply your your figure with that rate, parametric rate, and multiply. After multiplication, you can have a fairly good estimate. Then is a 3-point estimate. In a 3-point estimate, you use probability statistics. 3-point estimate means that you are seeking the opinion of people because you are not certain how much time this activity can take. So you are seeking the opinion of people who have expertise in this, and you will go to a large audience and try to get answers from as many people as possible. Now, their responses will be commuted and they will be addressed from a probabilistic point of view. The value you receive would be most of the people. It has been found that when you get opinion from a large audience, then most of the people are found to have similar opinion. Have you ever observed that?
Yes.
It is always true that most of the people have the similar opinion, if not the same, similar opinion. Meaning what? That if I draw a range, how much time this activity will take, most of the people would be saying 2 to 4 days. But while most of the people are saying this, some of the people are pessimist and some of the people are optimist. So there is a pessimist in your project and he says, no way, this job cannot be done even in 10 days. Whereas everyone else is saying it will take 2 to 4 days. So what should you do? Once you have the minimum and maximum available, optimist is saying it can be done in 1 day. Pessimist is saying it can be done in 10 days. But most of the people average is 3 days. So I have 3 points available and giving more weightage to the opinion of more people. So I will give 1 part weightage to the pessimist, 1 part weightage to the optimist, and 4 parts weightage to the most likely. And I will calculate a average result, a weighted average, where I have given 4 times weightage to the middle value, which was 3. So 4 into 3 is 12, and the minimum value was 1, and maximum value was 11. 10. So 1, 10, and 4 into 3. That is 12, 1, 13, 11, 22, 24. Is it so? Yeah, 24.
Yes, around that. Yeah,
So,
24.
because I have divided into 6 parts, 4 for most likely, 1 for pessimist and 1 for optimist. So I will divide this 24 by 6. So it will give me the size, the estimated duration which I should cater. So it comes out to be 3.83. So 3.83 is my new duration. If I was not considering this, if I had neglected the opinion of pessimist and optimist and just averaged the most likely, which is 3, then I would have been working on 3 days. But just because of the fact that I did this 3-point estimate, that 3 grew out into 3.83, almost 4 days. So by default, 1 day margin has been built into my estimation. This is 3-point estimate.
One question here. This most likely value is the average of all, or the mode or median? I mean, how do we statistically define this?
Well, I am talking from the layman perspective. Although in statistics you will use the median and mode and mean and all that, but I'm generally saying that it can be the probabilistic curve is something. Sorry, I mistake. So when why it is not going? Okay. This is generally the the bell curve, the famous bell curve of probability.
Yes.
This is the height of opinion. This is the height of maximum number of people are saying that it will say take 3 days, right?
Right.
If I can divide the total opinion in 3 parts here and 3 parts here, the positive side and negative side. So maybe 2 to 4, 2 to 4 people are saying that this is going to take this much time. So you see how many people are there? Maximum people are there.
Yes.
So this is the average of all of these. This is the mean of all of these. Then I have taken the pessimist and the optimist value. I've given 1 weightage to them, 4 weightages to them, and 1 weightage to this. So this
Right.
3 will be increased to 3.83. And the total number of deviations would be between 1 and 10. How many? Total, the difference between 1 and 10? 9.
9.
And if I divided 9 into 6 parts, one deviation size would come out to be 1.5. So probably
Yes.
calculations can give me a lot of advantage. This 1.5,
Right.
not only that, I have built in a margin of 0.83 days in my estimate, but I also know that if this thing is going to be further delayed, how much delayed it will be. One deviation
Right.
means add 1.5 days. 2 deviation delay का मतलब है add another 1.5 days, and 3 deviations add another 1.5 days. So this is the maximum you can go. And similarly, if your boss is pressing you to do it early, so from 3.48 you can go back up to 1.5. So what your boss is saying? He is saying no, don't do it in 3.48 days, do it in 3 days. So this is within my 1 deviation. My deviation goes up to 1.5. So for example, this is 4. I subtract 1.5, I get 2.5. So till 2.5, I can probably do it. And my boss, when asked it to be done in 3 days, I can even do it in 2.5 days. So that is all right with me. So with a little discussion, after a little discussion, I may, agree to do that. But if he presses me again, then I have even lesser margin. So in that,
Right.
I have to squeeze the project to 1 day, 2 deviations. So I can try that, but that could be even more difficult. And beyond that, it is not possible. Similarly, delays would be on the same scale. I have 4 days, so first deviation, my first deviation is 5.5. So between 4 and 5.5, this job is done This is first deviation. Between 5.5 and 7, if the job is done, this is second deviation. And third deviation, whether positive or negative, is always dangerous and unachievable. So if I know all this, I will be able to fight my case with my boss. Right. So this was the 3-point estimate. Then is the bottom-up estimate. The most detailed estimate is bottom-up estimate. You estimate everything at the activity level, then sum it up. Those activities which are part of one work package, I will sum all these activities and find the estimate for the work package. But naturally, I will keep activity margin in it. I mean, activities will have their own contingency. Then once this work package will like to keep its own contingency. All the work packages put together is called a control account. Control account doesn't have any extra movements available. And ultimately, if all the control accounts are put together, summed up together, that will give you the total budget of the total estimate of the project. Then you can do this data analysis, like an alternative analysis and reserve analysis, where to keep reserve. Decision making you can do, and you can conduct meetings. Resultantly, the duration estimate will be known, and not only the duration estimate is required, basis of estimate is also required, and basis of estimate is how did you come to this conclusion? Is it from some reference book? Is it from some formula? Is it from where you have placed that? So this is your basis of estimate, and then project documents, attributes, and etc. All of these things get updated.
Sir, one question here. I'm clear about the other ones. Just if you can repeat the parametric estimation once again.
Okay. I think you can better understand it if I talk in terms of cost. You are trying to get your house constructed. You go to a contractor and ask him how much will it cost. He will ask you how much area you want to cover. You say 3,000 square yards. So he says, or maybe 3,000 square feet. So he would say, I will charge you a fixed amount per square yard, maybe 4,000 rupees per square foot. 4,000 rupees per square foot. Now you multiply this amount with the total square feet available. That's 3,000 square feet into 4,000. This will be giving you an approximate estimate of how much it will take. This is parametric estimate. Similarly, I may know that a person can dig, can do the earthwork this much, say 6 cubic feet of earthwork he can do in a day. This is the rate. So how much can a single person do in 10 days? This is parametric. So I will multiply his daily performance with 10 days and find out from this parameter the exact estimate for that job. Got it, Ji?
Yes, I got.
Okay. Yeah, this slide is important. What are the factors on activity durations? One is law of diminishing returns. You see, if you keep value of one factor, if you keep increasing the value of one factor, another factor is positively impacted by it. So you see, if I keep adding more people, my job gets done earlier. So it continuously keeps. Initially, I had one person planned to work. Now I have added three more people into it, and then two more people onto it. So as I keep adding people or resources, my job is improved, but up to an extent. There is a saturation point beyond which, if I keep adding the resources, they will not increase the performance. They will not enhance the performance. For example, I need to construct a wall of 30 feet long, and one person can comfortably work in a workspace of 10 feet. So if a person requires 10 feet to work, I cannot put 10 people or 20 people in this workspace. So only one person can be used for this purpose. But if this wall is 30 feet, then I can use 3 people maximum. So this is the law of diminishing return, because if I keep adding, if I add fourth person, the performance will be negatively impacted because people will not have sufficient workspace. If I keep adding to this, this will become more impossible. Similar is the point about the number of resources. Simply increasing the number of resources doesn't solve the problem. Sometimes it is counterproductive. Then there are advances in technology, new techniques, tools are available. If you are using them, you might be able to work faster and better. Motivation of staff. Project manager also needs to be needs to be aware of student syndrome. You must understand people are motivated if you put in that effort. They cannot be treated as machines. So these are all those techniques which I just told you. Then we develop the schedule. To develop the schedule, we have a lot many things to do. If you like, we probably can stop here for a while, and then we can start again 5 minutes later.
Okay, that's fine.
जी जनाब। जी अदनान, मुझे ख्याल नहीं रहा, वो जुम्मे के लिए ब्रेक नहीं करनी थी?
हाँ जी, सही कह रहे हैं। तो मेरा ख्याल है आधे घंटे की ब्रेक कर लें या पौने घंटे की।
आधा घंटा काफी है मेरा ख्याल।
ठीक है।
2:15 बजे शुरू कर रहे हैं
ठीक है जी, बिल्कुल सही है।
फिर।
थैंक यू।